Does anybody know what compost tea at least is?
Compost
tea?
Yes.
Okay, compost tea is just a mirror. You get a good finished compost or organic material, you put it in a container and you aerate it with some air, and it makes some magic juice. There's a lot of things going on in there. I'm not going to try to get scientific about it, but we know if you do it right, it's just a very valuable part of bringing that soil back to life that I talked about. As a matter of fact, if you get your soil perfect, compost tea won't do you much good. You've done all the good you can do. You need to move on to other things. But most of us have a long way to go. This is a bucket that I use the word invented. It sounds like I'm an inventor. I stole the idea that no one would do it reasonably. You know, even the cheapie ones from Alaska were $200 and some for a 5-gallon tea bag. Doesn't make any sense to me. So I went and started messing with it. I'm going to build you one right here. Everything I got here except one item came from Wally World, from Walmart. I'm not a big supporter of Walmart, but they got it. That's why they're the #1 retailer in the world. I'll tell you some good and bad stories about them. The bad story is they're still buying their milk from Horizon Dairies. Horizon Dairy says it's organic, and they ain't met an organic cow. How they're getting away with it. Everybody's trying to sue them into losing the battle very, very, very quickly. The good news is Walmart's making some big efforts to go green. They've built a couple of stores that are solar powered. The whole roof is a giant solar set. They're now attempting to even cover part of their parking lot because the cell's not quite big enough. It covers about 80% of electricity. Now they're going to put covered parking out. The whole covered parking is really a solar set. And they're going to supply, that store is going to be 100% off the grid. Pretty good idea. I wish they'd do it in every one, but at least they're making a better effort than they used to. I discussed it with them on a regional basis in Arkansas, and I don't know if I was the cause, but they now have reusable bags you can buy. $1 a piece, pretty reasonable. There's probably propylene, at least you can get them. I think that's a good move. They had a big promotion on fluorescent light bulbs. And I don't know if they did it here, but they gave away 1 million in a day. Home Depot did the same thing. Pretty good thing. So I'm not all bad. Everything you ever did. But everything from here except this little bag came from Walmart, and they quit carrying it. This bag came from Lowe's. I'll show you what it is. We'll start from scratch. I'll pretend to build this whole thing. This is just a paint strainer bag. You get 2 of them for 97 cents. You can wash them out. They'll last a long time. Keep them, they don't have to be clean looking. They have to be clean. They're going to look stained. I'll tell you what to do with it. Then the other things you get from Wally World, besides the wind, the thing's not coming down. These are all from the aquarium department. Okay, you're going to get 2 of these 6-inch stones. They're just called air stones, air bubblers. And they're 97 cents each, I think. I think they're cheaper now. 2 for $1.50. You need 2 of those. You need 2 of the little bitty guys, and they are real cheap. I'll show you how these go together. I think this is tape. Oh, I know why it's tape. I'm going to ship it. And you need a set of little valves to make everything work. The only other item you buy is a pump. This pump's gone from $9.95 to $10.47. $11. The reason I prefer it is, first, it goes up to 60 gallons. We're only pumping 5, so it ought to really handle the deal. Secondly, I like the fact that it has 2 outlets. I can run the one, you'll see why. 1 in the bag, one set aside, and the other air stones at the bottom. So I'm running 4 air stones on 2 sets. And it gives you plenty of air. And you need plenty of air, we'll explain that. So once you go to put this thing together, the only thing I've done that I'm not going to do here, because they want to bring the equipment, I do drill a hole in the top, because I run a string through it. I'll show you why. And I do drill 2 holes in the side. Now you don't need any of these most of the time. You don't need to buy the top. I bought the top because I kept losing liquid. I come out the next morning and it'd be down 2 or 3 inches. And I said, there's no way that this stuff's evaporating at that rate. My dog's secret loves to drink this stuff. His only bucket to drink out of if it's there. Yes, yeah. Oh, it's got molasses in it. It's actually a Lacey's cow dog. And he's plenty tall. This is drinking height. I caught him one morning. I go out and he's lapping my food up. So I get to the bucket. Then I decided it's kind of neat to set this on top. And And before I was just draping my little bag with a cord, hanging it over the side. Well, now I tie it through here to my pump, which incidentally by coincidence has a little thing on the back to tie it to. It's actually, I think, to keep your pump from vibrating off the table, but I just tie it to this, suspending the bag about 1/3 of the way up with 1 pound or so of compost in it. And I'll tell you what I put in there. And it makes it all work real easy. It keeps the dog out of it, and it makes it easier to deal. So let's throw this thing together. It's not very difficult. I've pre-cut these, but you can buy one of these is 8 feet for $1.49 or so. And it's just enough to do one good setup. That's all you're gonna get. You're gonna have now $28.26 in it. It used to be about 23, but everything, even the buckets. The bucket's now $5 and $1.50 for the lid. They used to be $2.50 complete. Somebody discovered buckets are easy to sell. So nobody has them cheap. So you have to do that. But anyway, you get about 28 bucks tied up. So people like these guys sell them a number of places like 50 or 60 bucks. If you're too lazy to make it yourself. I prefer you make your own. I don't want to sell them. I always have a bunch on order. I just ship 4 out. They don't care what it costs. Some people just don't want to mess with it. Anyway, you cut this about the right length, as you can see here. This is going to do 2 things. I'm going to put my dirt in there, compost, and I'm going to put this in the bottom. And I'm going to take a string, I'm going to pretend to do this, and tie it up. Okay? What is this for? This is probably why mine worked as good as it did. We went and had my friend Malcolm Beck and I were invited, I think it's either 3 years ago now, to what they called the Texas Tea-Off. Everybody showed up from all across the country with their tea makers. Malcolm's cost $8,000. We had them there for $1,500, $2,000, $3,000. Then I showed up with my bucket for 25 bucks. We went up to the Austin sewage system place where we met. There was about 14 or 15 of us. And we had a tea. We made the best possible compost tea we could. At the end of the first day, Malcolm was number 1. He beat me by about 2 fungi. Okay? I was second. And then we beat everybody else's machines, whether they were $10,000 or $2,000 or nothing. This little $25 bucket made better tea than everybody did. And again, Malcolm had the cream of the crop at the time called Worm Gold machine. By the next day, I had as many numbers as him. A number of the other teas had already gone anaerobic, which means you couldn't use it anymore. And at the end of the 4th day, the only teas that they said they would have used would either be mine or his on the garden. Elaine said she'd throw the rest of them out. They were that anaerobic. So this makes good tea. Just doesn't make a lot of it. This will do about 1/4 of an acre, or it'll soak your garden very well. If you got any volume, you're gonna have to go to a bigger volume. All right, I tie my bag up. I take these 2 guys. Go ahead and do this if you got 1 more minute. It doesn't take very long. Put you them out. You don't have to use exact ones, but I found out that if you stick with everything exactly the same way, it's easier to know. If you gotta go get one, you just go get the same thing. Somewhere I have 2. And this goes on here. I'm hoping I have 2 little pre-cuts already.
Is all this on your website, Bruce?
Everything's on the website with photographs for free. All of it's for free. I don't charge for anything. And again, I prefer you make your own. If you want one, we'll do it, but that's almost not worth the hassle. I just hate to turn anybody down. Should be another one of these somewhere. There it is. You see what I'm doing here? You can leave these capped. If you want to buy more, you can actually run a tube from here to here and put 2 more and circle the whole bottom. I haven't found it necessary. I don't go anaerobic. And I should tell you, I just don't pretend. I do have a microscope. What's it called? A DO, dissolved oxygen meter, pH, TDS meters, all at home. I actually carry them as a portable lab. So I do actually check it. I don't just pretend.
What's the DO you like to see?
Well, they say a minimum of 6. I'm in the high 7s and 8s right now because it's cool. When it gets very difficult is when it's 100 degrees outside. They claim at 105 or 6, water can't hold enough oxygen to be aerobic. Period. The hotter the water, the less oxygen. All right, I got those 2 in the bottom, right? I've got my other guy somewhere. Here he is. He's going to go on the other side. And we'll stick him in here. Okay. This thing comes through the center. It's my dog proofer. Then, if you want to finish it, I might as well. Finish for a second. Incidentally, these are getting hard to get. I don't know if I'm buying so many of them. All the stores that supply me are out. Every time I go, I buy them all.
Check PetSmart. PetSmart.
Same pump?
Right.
Good. I'll do it. I tie this on here. I'm going to do it, just kind of fake it today. And I do it so I can look under here, and that bag is hanging in the water, but off the ground. The more circulation you've got, the better off you are. Now, what I usually do is every time I walk by, I shake it. I just kind of move it around more for the first 6 or 8 hours. In that bag now, I'm going to have, my favorite to begin with is the earthworm castings. I almost always use some earthworm castings. I use good finished compost. Now you can use, they used to make a thing called manure tea, raw manure. I don't know if you want to put it on your vegetables or not. It doesn't scare me at all. But you might not want to use raw manure. There is a chance, especially if you know your manure, if it's your animals, you're probably pretty clean. But who knows what went through a commercial cow or a commercial chicken. I don't. Mine are on property that has not had herbicides, pesticides, or anything for 13 years now. I'll use my own manure. I'm not afraid of it from the ranch. So you put that in the bag, you put about a pound, a double handful. We used to put, even Howard Garrett, much as I love my friend Howard, he would just spend a couple of days with me this week, his website's all wrong. Don't do what it says. He's filling this in third full of manure and letting it just sit there and stirring it once a day for 14 days. It's not the same, folks. It's a good chance that's going to go anaerobic. It's a good chance you're going to get bad guys in there. I recommend it. I want aeration. Now, I leave that bag in there 8 or 10 hours.
That's it.
Then I take it out.
How high is the water level?
I get it to about there, just so it won't bubble out. And then I take it out, I take those little air stones out, untie the bag and drop them back in. I go and dump that compost somewhere and use it again. All I've done is knock some bugs off of it. I haven't hurt the compost. So it's still good compost. Okay. And then I let it sit overnight. 24 hours, 36 hours, somewhere in there. The warmer it is, the less time you let it sit.
Aerating?
Aerating the whole time. Aerate it till you use it. At 86 or so degrees, a lot of the good bacteria we like reproduce every 14 minutes. Add that up in 24 hours. At cooler temperatures, it slows down considerably. At about 53 or so, they almost are not really, they're mostly just hanging out. So you want to be ideally about 70, yes?
You and Bob had mentioned aerating the water before putting anything in.
Yes, the one thing that you want to do in the city, and I always forget this, folks, because I don't live in the city. You want to aerate your water a couple hours before you make your tea, because the chlorine will go out. It'll oxidize.
I understand they're not using chlorine anymore. Is that chloramine that doesn't...
In one part of our city right now, they're using chloramine, and they're going to be using their city, not my city. You're right. And if they move to chloramine, there's a chemical you can buy at aquarium stores to get it out. But Elaine Ingham says it's still not good. It still leaves the water with a lot more headache than none. So you're better off with well water. Oh, and incidentally, spring water, which we thought not spring, but distilled water, that's pretty bad too. It's got nothing in it. There's nothing for the bugs to hold on to. There's no minerals in the water. There's no suspended solids. So even distilled's not a good idea. I will tell you the rest of the tea story so you'll know that Malcolm and I cheated. When we both won, everybody said we cheated. There was a pond in front of this place. And what they said is make the best damn tea you can make. And that they told us that. So I just went and got buckets full of pond water. Well, the rest of them used city water from Austin. Duh. They said, well, we cheated because we didn't use the same water. I said, hey, the pond's out there. Malcolm and I got a big laugh out of it. He didn't say not to use pond water. You said make the best tea you knew how to make. Well, I immediately thought, I'm in Austin, Texas. I don't even drink their water. Why the heck would I try to feed it to my microbes? So I went and dipped the water out of the pond, made my pond, and I'm certain that it didn't hurt the number of bugs. So try to use it. At worst, if you don't want to bubble this thing a few hours, set the water in the day before and just leave it. Better still, even if you don't want to do water catchment for anything else, get one 50-gallon drum and catch enough off your house to have rainwater sitting there. Be wonderful for this. Now, the other problem you've got is if you put it out with a hose-in sprayer, guess what's running the hose-in sprayer? Chlorinated water. I don't know how to fix that very easily.
Fluoridated too.
Say?
Yes.
Fluoridated.
And fluoridated, yeah, two good things that are really not good for you at all. Pardon the pun, both shoved down our throats.
Well, we have we make a pool for our dog. It's one of those black plastic ponds, and it does sit there a while. And I do get a green, that green
dog water.
stuff. That's good.
Yeah, you got lots of dirt on here. There's some new studies having nothing to do with this, but it has a lot to do with this. And we've been, for the last 40 or 50 years, trying to see how much we can sterilize the earth. You drink pasteurized, homogenized milk, which isn't good for you. You have antibacterial soaps, which isn't good for you. There's a study to prove it. We wash our dogs with antibacterial liquid, detergents. We wash our clothes. And we're doing ourselves more harm than good. There's a great study out about children now called the hygiene theory. And I put it in simple language. It's really good for your kid to sleep on his dog once in a while. It's really good for your kid to eat some dirt and crawl around the dirt. There's a significant difference, third or 23 or 24% of kids raised with pets in the house not having the asthma and having allergies of the kids that didn't have any pets around. Now, that will sound like the pet's very valuable, but evidently he brings enough vermin in there to get your kids kind of, the clock's ticking a little bit. You take these kids that have been raised, I call them latchkey kids, and all they do is live on a carpet at home in the formaldehyde, which is in all the carpets, and then turn them loose in kindergarten and they're sick as hell for about 2 years. They catch everything coming down the pipe because they've never been exposed to anything. You need to be exposed. Us, most of us, I'm looking at our crowd, some younger people here, we didn't know. My mom made me bathe. If I didn't, I don't think I'd have bathed very often. She'd just line up with 5 boys and had to take a bath. Well, not every day. You could cheat, you could get me laid. Anyway, the whole compost tea thing's still the same philosophy is the same. It is good for your soil, it's good for your plants, you can spray it on your plants, you can soak your soil with it. You can't really do bad. You don't need a $1,000 microscope and a bunch of stuff. Smell it. If it smells rich and earthy, probably pretty rich and earthy. If it smells like vomit, it's probably vomit. I probably shouldn't put it in. Smells like urine, it's probably ammonia and it's going to burn your plants. But if you put that amount in there and you keep it aerated, do you use it, and it smells good, whether you've used the compost I want, I throw a little molasses in there when it's not too warm to feed the bugs. Sometimes I put fish milk in there. Believe it or not, if you want fungal for like deciduous trees, oatmeal is great for fungus. Kelp is great to make fungus out of. There's a lot of things, rye, wheat hulls. All good things to make funguses grow. Where do you get your fungus from? I have a little mound of where I keep my stuff, and when I take the top layer off, it's white with fungus. And I take a handful of that mixed with my earthworms. I take a handful of mixed with John Drumgold's got a real good compost right now that works real good in this thing. Number one, best compost is what you do at your home yourself with your stuff, because that's where your bugs are. And I know you can bring them in, there's the stuff you can buy from Alaska. I'm sure it does some good to make your bugs, but do you really think the same bacteria and microbes that are healthy for us down here are the same ones that are living in Alaska where it never gets above 50 degrees soil? Probably not. I don't think they harm, but I think it's kind of silly to bring microbes from Alaska. First, shipping, it's kind of crazy, shipping compost around the world. We got our own crap, we don't need theirs. And secondly, it's very expensive. Any questions about this, or just general gardening? Yes.
For the viewers at home, could you give a timeline again of for the compost for the whole brew cycle?
All right, I put it in pound and a half. Leave it about 8 to 10 hours. I pull the bag, take the bag apart, put the air stones back in, and let it cook. Brew might be a better term, for at least 24 hours. There's some of the commercial saying do it in 12, but I've done microscope readings on 12, and they're not very loaded yet. The other good thing about this is I just did this same, different show, the same idea at Cooper's Garden in Floresville last week. 2 or 3 people showed up with their tea. Only one of them had good tea. But none of them had bad tea. It was very cool that morning. They didn't start it until 12 hours before. It didn't have a time to build up. Cooper didn't have as good a one as the people that he taught. I thought that was hilarious. But the good news is, even the little bacteria they had in there was still more helpful than just water. It was still a very good idea. Go ahead and use it. It's not going to harm anything, and it will do you some good. Yes?
Temperature. As it gets warmer during the summer.
Yes. Ideally about 75 to 80 degrees. I do mine if it's real cool in the sun, like the last few days I was.
During the summer, should I do this in my basement?
Excellent. I do mine in my computer room. I have a computer room. I keep air conditioned very lightly, so my computers don't get too hot, and I circulate the air and everything, and it stays under about 90 degrees, and that's okay. Now you're going to shorten your brewing period. You might only want to do it about 20 hours, 18 hours at 90 degrees. All right, you're going to start going anaerobic.
What kind of bag was that?
This is a bag that you get from, it's a paint strainer bag. Okay. Put a paint strainer, and the best ones right now are coming from Lowe's, like I said, Walmart would carry them. There's some others. I used to use pantyhose for everything. But we discovered in looking at the microscope that if you filtered the water through the pantyhose, you lost a lot of fungus. Fungus is bigger than the pantyhose holes. You need mesh. Yeah.
Wide mesh.
Yeah, I don't look as good in mesh, but yeah. But so this is a good bag. These holes are much bigger, and so your fungus comes through this pretty good. The pantyhose will do in a bind. It lets the microbes, as far as bacteria, right out. Doesn't really hurt anything. But a bag that's got a little bit bigger mesh is a heck of a lot more useful. I've seen people use pillowcases. You probably lose a lot.
Is there any reason why you'd want to grow more fungus than bacteria, or more bacteria than fungus?
For what we're doing for annuals, tomatoes, peppers, everything but brassicas, they don't seem to care. Broccoli don't care one way or the other. Actually, believe it or not, the bacteria is probably a more beneficial mix. But if you're going to plant trees, you're going to grow fruit trees, you're going to do deciduous plants that lose their leaves and come back, but they're perennial. Evergreen plants, they're much more fungal based. And think about it this way. Somebody gave me this explanation that made good sense, so I stole it. Fungus is a very long-term growing plant. It grows for decades. So do trees. Grass is annual. Tomatoes are annual. Annual plants have to get out there, get that bacteria, whatever's beneficial to them, get it done, and they're dead. So it makes sense that deciduous, woody trees and things would have a much better relationship, a much better marriage to fungus than it would bacteria. Whereas annuals and things that die every year or come back even, bacteria does a pretty good job for them. So there's a mixture always. It's not 100%, but that makes sense to me. There's a very good explanation of why the big trees and things are much happier with fungus than they are with special mycorrhizae fungus. Mycorrhizae collects nitrogen and gives it to the plant. If you got enough mycorrhizae on them, you don't need fertilizer. They'll supply their own. He steals carbon. The plant gets sunshine. It builds its stores. It's letting the fungus steal some of the carbon, the sugars, in exchange for some protein, which we call nitrogen. And it's a symbiotic relationship, and everybody's happy. If you've ever put out Austrian peas, for instance, and you didn't inoculate them, you get a very poor crop. Once you inoculate them one time, those funguses and everything are in there from then on. The mycorrhizae deal, and you buy it in the bag. We know that. I did Australian peas this year for the first time. I got 10 times more than I did for the vetch and things last year because I did not inoculate my soil this year. I did.
So if you do that one time, it's in the ground.
Unless you burn it out with synthetic fertilizer, herbicides, and pesticides. If you're using natural stuff, you don't have to keep doing that. Those guys survive even if they don't have the vetch there to live on to the next season. They live on other things. Yes, you don't have to have it.
So for the compost bag in there, if you don't have, say in your mulch pile, you don't see any of the white fungus, can you use a pinch of that mycorrhizal fungi?
No, and here's why. You can put mycorrhizae in there, but mycorrhizae drowns. It doesn't do well in liquid. It'll last an hour or two, but it can't make it. So you're better off either get powdered mycorrhizae, which is now easy to buy. Cargill has one.
We have it here.
Or put it in the liquid right when you're going to pour it out. My suggestion now is you sprinkle it and get it around, immediately water it in. Now, it's got to get to the root. It only has a short life if it's not on the roots. So by all means, the best thing to use mycorrhizae is when you're planting, right in the root hole. Then you're there. Okay, when you plant the beans. That's why you inoculate the bean. You get this little powder and you shake all your beans and they're all covered in this black powder. That's all fungus spores. And that's what you want when you stick it in the ground. Then it's not. Anybody else about anything? Yes, sir.
Applying.
Say?
Applying after it's mixed.
Yes, sir.
What's your hose-in sprayer?
Hose-in sprayer, take all the filters out because you want the fungus to get through. I like, and I think they have them, if they don't, the best I've found is a thing called a Gilbert. They make cheap plastic ones, and they make solid brass ones. And the solid brass one even comes with interchangeable nipples on the front so you can vary the amount. And it's got 10 different settings, from like 5 tablespoons to a gallon to 1. Or you take the teaspoon one and it goes from 5 or 10 teaspoons down to 1. So you can really specialize. It's brass, it'll last you forever. Just take care of it. If your container goes out, it's a very standard bottle that you can replace. There's a bunch of real cheapies that do okay, but they only got a 16:1 ratio, and you're very limited in what you're going to get out in your ratios. I like mine to vary. Now, having said that, if you might have to refilter this to get it through some spreaders. The other thing is a pump-up sprayer. And the best way is what I do. I got a bucket and a cup, and I pour it on the plants because I'm only doing small gardens. Now, if I was doing fields, I had a man here that couldn't stay, that bent my brain for an hour because he couldn't be here for this, but he wanted to know how he was going to do acreage of grass with compost tea. That's a very different thing than what we're doing. Good news about this, incidentally, is you can't burn anything with it. If you want to use it straight, go ahead. If you want to mix it with 10 gallons of water, go ahead. Remember that the water always gets this question. The water is not a dilution. Someone always says, well, how much do I dilute the compost tea? None. Or 100 gallons. You're not diluting. Let's try it another way. I tell you that this bucket will cover, let's do this, 5,000 square feet. Okay? I don't care how much water you mix with. Don't leave the 5,000 square feet. Keep running around and you've put all that water in that area, and guess what you've done? You've put 5 gallons of bacteria on that 5,000 square feet. So that's not a dilution, it's a carrier. It's a way to get it out because it's hard to take 5 gallons and spread it over an acre even. It's virtually, if you put it with 50 gallons of water and just drive your tractor around it, carry your spreader, when you've covered that 5,000 feet with that 50 gallons, you've got every bug that was in there out there. And it really is better for them in some way. Do it really early in the morning, very late at night, because believe it or not, a lot of these guys are very UV sensitive. They're not made to be above ground in bright sunshine. They die. It takes them about 20 minutes to get encysted, they call it, get where it's safe. So early in the morning, late in the evening.
Just before the rain.
Yeah, great for the rain's wonderful. Or, that, again, early in the morning, especially on damp mornings, your plants, folks, I guess you know this, get all their goodies pretty much in the first few hours of daylight. There's things called stomata on the bottom of the leaf, and it opens and closes. It respires, carbon dioxide goes in, oxygen comes out, and unfortunately it also loses water. So the lower time they have to be open, the better off the plant is, especially in dry areas. You put that out daybreak, especially spraying under your leaves, and they get all the goodness taken in almost immediately. So that is by far the best time to spray this thing. Any time's better than no time. Drenching the ground, you can't use too much. I do both. I spray mine a lot because I'm lazy and it's easy to do, but occasionally I do soak the ground of each plant. I try to mix it different every time. Everybody says, what's the formula? Diversity is the formula. Don't use the same horse manure every time. Don't use the same compost bag every time. Don't use the same worm castings. Worms do a different job. You know, you take a worm casting and if people don't realize, put it in a plastic bag and sit it in the sun when it's 92 tomorrow, and you've killed most of the goodness of the worms. A lot of these places, and I'm looking here because I can say this very safely, a lot of these places leave all their plastic bags sitting out in the sun. How much microbes do you think's alive in that bag when it's gotten to 160 degrees for 3 weeks? Zero. Because at 150 is what we bring compost piles up to sterilize it. Well, we're sterilizing the soil we're using. This is not one of the few places, a lot of them have gotten smarter. But you don't want to go buy real good, especially compost. Doesn't seem to hurt the fertilizer so bad because fertilizer's already been heated. The goodness is in there. It's still got the nitrogen. But for living things like mulch, living things like worm casting, living things like living mulches, they don't need to be sitting out on a pallet in the sunshine. You're killing them. This is a living world. Like I said, we're microbe farmers. If you grow the soil right, any plant that'll grow there will get what it needs. Everybody says, well, how do you fertilize your tomatoes as opposed to your watermelons? The truth is, I don't. I do them all the same way. If I've got my soil back to life and as healthy as it can be, that plant will take what it has to be and be happy with it. I don't worry about pH. I can plant azaleas where you tell me they won't grow, but you let me do an organic program and my azaleas will stay green. Worms, especially worm castings, have a tendency to neutralize. If it's too alkali, guess what? It neutralizes and makes it a bit more acid. If it's real acid, it has a tendency to bring out the alkalinity. It's Mother Nature at work. And she's there to help you if you don't kill her. Any questions?
Or the Muscovies.
Yeah, I got Muscovies everywhere. See, my ducks eat my doggone ginkgo plant. It's the only thing they ate the bark off.
This ducks have eaten about a half acre of vegetation regularly.
Yeah, ducks are not supposed to eat that.
Okay. I'm not using her. She's the gardener. I'm the one who
Just eats it?
How often do I kind of spray it? Like if I make one of these every 2 days, 3 days?
If you want to, it may be a waste. You may be overdoing it.
Okay.
But,
well, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Oh, no. Betsy Ross, the woman that made the flag? No, it's not actually. This is her cousin. She is probably the most successful cattle raiser I know, living almost exclusively on compost tea and molasses. She settled on about 5 gallons of molasses an acre, about 4 to 5 times a year. She alternates the compost tea 4 to 5 times a year. Okay, and that's about it. I do mine about every month. Once a month I mix. By a month, I'm doing it more often than that because I'll do my garden this week, and next week I'll do my little garden in the back, my living area. The next week I'll do my watermelons, and the next week, you know. So I am brewing once a week, but I'm not necessarily pouring it on the same ground every week. So I've almost got a bucket going on.
So you use dry molasses in it?
No, I use liquid. I'm lazy. My friend Howard Garrett prefers dry molasses because his picture's on the bag and he gets a quarter every time you buy it.
Well, I did, except the pigs like to dig that up.
Oh, yeah? Well, now let me tell you one thing he says is true, and I'm going to do it this very day and let you know. I do have 100 pounds of dry molasses at home. I'm going to super thick do my little garden in the back. He says that the fire ants could be gone.
That's right.
This is my study to find out if it's telling
We
me.
know it works.
Does it work?
It works.
Dry molasses?
Yes, sir.
Does it kill them or drive them away?
I don't know. They're gone.
What difference does it make?
Yeah, they hate it.
Well,
Was not
is it a prevention?
Yeah, what we think is happening, and we only think
don't
this. I
have
don't
any
even
more.
know the science.
put
Whether you
it-
use liquid or you use dry, it evidently
It's the
ups the
bacteria.
bacteria situation so much. See, fire ants love monocultures. That's why we're out in coastal fields. They don't want to compete with anybody. What a perfect place, because nothing will live there but there. You start putting diversity out there and getting microbes out there and get away from this monoculture ground, and you'll get rid of fire ants. They don't want to live there anymore. They got to compete with the world. And that's what I think it does. I just brings the bacterial levels up so much they can't handle it out.
You have to spread it over?
The dry, I'm going to guess you do. Yes, ma'am. This is
Bring
liquid.
it back.
Yeah, I've always used liquid. I personally think liquid's a way better value. What, a gallon costs $3 or something, and it covers 2 tablespoons or 3 to a gallon. Whereas dry molasses, 50-pound bag, covers 1,000 square feet. Now, it does different things, but I think you get more bang for your buck with the liquid, but you may get some benefits because that molasses is also on organic material, wheat and rye or whatever. That may be a good synergistic relationship that you don't get so easily with liquid. So it's a winner to do both. Back to what's the word? Diversity. Don't always use dry. Don't always use liquid.
I just run it through my bucket. I got one of those that pulls up.
Yeah, you got to siphon it.
Yes. What I do is I run the molasses through my sprinkler system. I just move it and fire ants, bugs.
And there's enough, you run it at full bore. So it's got enough to, see that works on a Venturi effect. So you got to have some pressure. Now there is a thing, and only one person in town sells it. It isn't me, but I'll tell you, Gardenville has a thing called Easy Flow. I brought them in when I was running Gardenville, and they've kept them. Here's what it is that's cool. It's a bucket with a container that steps on it, no moving parts. But here's what's different about it. Unlike his, which has to have that moving pressure, or it won't suck the liquid through. This thing has two tubes on it. One pressurizes the tank, and the other one feeds it back to the water hose. Here's what's cool about that. What if you want to do a drip system? It'll work. What if you just want to sprinkle and let it lay on something? It'll still work. Whereas those that have to have the Venturi effect have to have that pressure moving. So I use mine, it's got a variable dial, you can turn it off or turn it on. But I just load it with my, the other things, you put the concentrate in. Now, molasses are too thick, you have to cut those. But your normal, you just fill it up. You don't have to do any mixing or anything. And it feeds it out. And it's a lazy man's way to feed it. Yeah, that's what we mean what the KISS method is.
Keep it simple, sweetie.
That's me. And so I use it a lot. I've got two of them now. I got little ones. I'm going to get a big one next. And it's basically the big nurseries all use these, but they have pumped ones that have electricity. This is a passive system that should last forever. It might get stopped up once in a while, you got to wash it out. But it should never wear out. To the bottle.
Using the Venturi system like
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is that too turbulent for the bacteria?
Here's the answer, and then I'll tell you I don't know. In tests that Elaine Ingham did, if you get greater than 135 psi onto a bug, microbial, it busts it. Now, I don't think we're going that high in a normal feeding system, okay? But I don't know that answer. Nobody's ever tested it. But what she made is the ideal is, let's say you get a good high-pressure hose, you get your liquid in there and spray it against a piece of concrete from this far away, and you're busting your bugs open. You're hurting some. Especially busting the fungi, funguses. So, but I don't think, I've heard everybody say they put them out that way. I put nematodes out that way, and I know I get a good effect. So, no, sir, I don't think it's that way. I think it's okay. The better way, I'm going to put nematodes out today, but you know how? Sprinkler bucket. We're very careful today. I'm going to fill it up 2 or 3 gallons at a time and run around because I want it to go exact places. I've never worried about fire ants, but I've got a particular area where I have, I'm nuts. I hatch baby bearded dragons every year. Bearded lizards. I hatch them in the wild. They're loose. And they've been eating the fire ants have been getting them in their first young. So I'm going to try to eliminate that one area so that they have a better chance. Once they're dry, they're fine. That first few minutes when they come out of the egg, they're not able to get away. And occasionally the fire ants will grab them and they're angry too. And they'll get my lizards. I'm going to try to get rid of them this year. Anything else? If not, I'll be around for a little bit. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering,
Y'all can get up. I won't be embarrassed.
Is there any sort of defense against oak wilt that we're going through?
Against what?
Oak wilt?
Bob Webster was just here. He claims he saved the tree from oak wilt for 3 years now by doing nothing but what we call the sick tree treatment. This is an idea that Howard Garrett has promoted. He stole it from Dr. Carl Whitcomb, but he doesn't give. Like me, here's our story in the radio business. I tell you 3 times where I got it, and then from then on it's mine, and I lie about it. Well, Howard's the one that taught me.
So it's almost yours now, right?
It's almost mine. Now we can call it the Deuley sick tree treatment. But my website has got it. Howard Garrett's has it. It's a mixture of different volcanite, volcanics, lava sand, green sand, cornmeal, pit fertilizer, molasses. And those trees, and what we're saying is that's the best thing you can do. If the tree's going to make it, it's going to make it. But aloe doesn't work. There's $300 injections. All they do is extend the death. Okay? There's nothing out there right now commercially available chemical-wise that's doing a damn things for other people. I'm sorry, it's just not working long term. You're just wasting the money. It's very
What's your
expensive.
website?
Dooley's, well, it's natureapproved.net. It's easier. All my radio shows are on there. Well, all my Saturday shows. And all kinds of information. If I don't have it, write me and I'll find it. I honor that most of the time, if I'm where I can get to my computer, I answer my email every day. Sometimes I'm where I can't get it to work.
Say that again,
natureapproved.net. Thank you guys for coming, everybody. Well, I met y'all.
David said it was good.